Welcome back to another episode of Football Unfiltered. This is going to be a big one for us today. As you can see, we all have face cams available, and we then do have our first ever guest appearance. Please welcome Owen, everybody.
Hello, thank you for having me on. Very, very, very happy to be on.
Perfect. Well, how you been? You been good this week?
Yeah, I've been all good. I've just Liam knows enough about this, and he's probably going to roll his eyes when I say it. But I've been in and out in hospital. Sort of recently had a issue with my ankle, which we're still waiting on the results on. But let's not talk about that today. Let's just talk about football. Let's forget all about
Fine. Well, as long as you're all right, mate, that's all that matters, isn't it? At the
that.
end of the
I'm
day.
all, I'm all good to
But
do this podcast. Don't worry.
Liam, you? How's your week been?
Yeah, all good. All good. Good weekend. Going up to Rangers, seeing them get 3 points, which we'll talk about later. But other than that, all good. Getting close to Christmas now.
Perfect. These are the busiest times of the year. We're going to continue talking about that as we did last week. But again, we're going to start with the news. So, Liam, over to you.
Yeah, so like we did last week, we got news of the week. So we got Gary Rowett has been appointed as the new Oxford manager. He takes over after the sacking of Des Buckingham. Oxford had a disappointing result at the weekend. So Gary Rowett coming in, hopefully he can galvanise the team. You got Southampton appoint Ivan Juric as their new manager. Southampton got a good 0-0 draw yesterday, and he was in the stands watching. So hopefully, maybe he can help push Southampton a bit higher up the table. News in League One: Fleetwood Town sack Charlie Adam after their disappointing loss at the weekend. They currently sit 16th. Thinking it's quite a harsh sacking for me, but we'll wait and see how that gets on and who takes over. And probably one of the biggest news out of League One coming out yesterday. Louis Barry is been recalled. Is set to be recalled in January by Aston Villa, and he's being reported to be going to a Championship club on loan for the rest of the season to seek a new opportunity at a higher standard. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes. And see how he gets on in the Championship. We've also just want to touch on Vitor Pereira as well. He got his first win as Wolves manager at the weekend away at Leicester. So that seems to be a good start and a good appointment so far for Wolves, but we'll see how he gets on.
It
That's all
was
the weekly news I've got for this week.
That's weekly roundup, wasn't it? So, as you touched on the Wolves win, we were talking about last week. What do they need to do to kind of seek that first win in a while? Beating Leicester 3-0. I think it's a quick time to touch on Leicester. Do you think they're going to be down in the Championship next year, boys?
Nah, I think they'll be all right. Personally, I think Van der Stroy is a good appointment. Actually, he obviously came from PSV. Won. Am I right in saying he won them the league? I
Yeah,
believe. Yeah, he won them the league. I mean, I don't really know who else they could have got. Obviously, Steve Cooper, for me personally, was a bit of a weird one. There was a stat going around a few seasons ago where he's only actually ever won in the Premier League. He's only ever won at 4 stadiums. Obviously, one of them being Forest's ground, which doesn't bode well when you're a manager. So I
Definitely
think
not.
I think I think Van Nistelrooy will do well. Yeah, right. They've lost 3-0 to Wolves, which their fans obviously I think booing them at the. I think booing them was a bit harsh. You know, you've got to give Van Nistelrooy time. Obviously, I'm a Brighton fan at heart, if you couldn't tell. But they obviously for us it was devastating because we were 2-0 up, cruising, and against Wolves, funnily enough, was when we threw away a 2-0 lead, and we throw away another 2-0 lead. But I think you've got to just give him time, and I think personally they'll be fine.
Yeah. I do agree. You said you were a bit of a Wolves fan, but you're a bit of a Brighton fan. But then you also follow Lewes, don't you, as well?
I do, yeah. We're going to. I think I'm going to touch on it a bit more in the podcast. Yeah, so Lewis was a bit of a weird one when it came around. So it sort of came around when Brighton didn't have a game, and I asked my mate, just asking, "Oh, what are you up to this week? Do you want to meet up?" And he went, "Oh, I'm going to watch Lewis play." And I thought, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me go along and watch that." And the first game I went to was Worthing away, which for them is actually quite a big derby game. Ended up losing 3-1, but the whole atmosphere around it it's so much different non-league to the football league, and I just fell in love with it, and I've been a fan ever since.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think we do have a few questions prepped for you around the whole Lewes scene because we've only touched on really League Two, League One, Championship, and
Yeah.
Prem. So I think it'd be interesting for Liam and I to gain a little bit of background on the lower leagues, non-league football. So I think we've got a few questions for you if you're happy to. It's
Yeah, no worries.
Gonna be like 21
I'll try
questions
to
here.
prepare as best as I can for them. So try not to embarrass myself in front of everyone else.
Fine, so no pressure. We're going to let Liam ask you a few questions. Obviously, you're Liam's guest today, so let Liam ask you some bits about Lewes.
Yeah, look, me and Cal as well. We like to watch a bit of non-league football from here and there. I go and support my local team, Eastbourne Borough, quite a bit when I can. So yeah, it's good to hear about Lewes, and hopefully I'll get down to a few games this season with you, Owen. But just first of all, just tell us a little bit about Lewes Football Club.
So Lewes Football Club, obviously, it's very interesting in terms of where they play, and it's quite for people that don't follow sort of football at all. It's very confusing to say where they are in the league. So obviously, you've got there's 10 tiers obviously of football. You've got step 1, which is the Prem, down to sort of step 10, which is county. Lewes play in step 7 in the Isthmian Prem. In non-league terms, they play in step 3, which is very confusing when you say they're in step 7, but they're also in step 3. So they're 3 leagues. So you've sort of got above them, you've got the Vanarama South, and then you've got the Vanarama National League, and they sit in the Isthmian Prem. So they're currently, I believe, last time I checked, they were 6th. We played Wingate and Finchley on the weekend, which was a 2-2 draw. Came back from 2-0. Sorry, we were losing 2-0. Came back to salvage a draw, which was good for us. A little bit actually on Lewes itself as a club. It's been community owned since 2010, so that means essentially the fans have a majority stake. So if sort of bigger corporations want to come and buy a stake, they can only buy up to 49%. They can't buy 51%, for example. The fans always have a majority. And just another quick little thing before we go on to more. I'm not sure 100% if they're the only club that do this now, but they were the first club that came out and openly admitted that they pay their men and women's team equally, which I think personally that's a good thing. You know, obviously me and Liam, we're both training to be teachers, and I don't know if you've seen Liam on your placements, for example. Women's football and girls' football is something that is growing massively. You know, you have sort of at the school I was at, you have loads and loads of girls' teams. You've got girls' off-school football clubs. And I think it is very good that Lewes took that step and they came out and they go, we pay our men and women equally, which obviously it's a big talking topic. It's something that's probably for a completely different podcast, but I personally like that about the club, and that's just a little bit on Lewes itself.
Yeah, perfect. I think it is quite a big talking point, like men and women in football specifically. It's something that we haven't really spoken about yet, but I'm sure in the future we definitely will be. I've attended a few women's games as well, and if anything, I've actually enjoyed them. I've got quite a close connection with women's football due to some family relations. But yeah, I think it's definitely a growing sport and it's a growing market, and I think it's something that major businesses probably looking to buy into now, and then it's going to be making millions, I think, in a few years' time anyway. But like you say, I think that's a conversation and a topic for a different podcast.
So, just another question then. You say about you, obviously, first of all, you went there with your mate. What is your best memory so far being a Lewes fan?
I've actually got quite a few, to be fair. There's been so many good memories. I mean, there's been dreadful memories as well. We've had awful results recently. But one of the best memories I have is we played in a competition called the Phoenix Trophy, which it's a UEFA recognised competition, which brings together sort of non-league teams from all over the world. So we played, this was last season, we played a team called Beveren from Belgium in our group, a team from Beveren and FC Oslo of Norway. Actually topped our group. We went unbeaten in our group, but it was just, for a non-league club to go on a European tour is it's unheard of. It's something, non-league club doing European tour. What's all that about? But it was brilliant, and because we finished top of our group, so there were 4 groups in total, and the winner of each group went through to the finals, which were held in Italy. They were held after the season finished. I think we came third, actually. We lost our semi-final game, I believe, to FC United of Manchester. I could be wrong. They were definitely in it. I could be wrong, and that's the team that we lost to. But we lost semi-final, won the third place playoff. But it's just a great experience. If you go on to, there's an Instagram page actually. I haven't told them about this, so Lewes Clammer, if you're listening, you deserve to pay me for a shout out for this. But if you go on to their Insta, they've got lots of pictures of them in sort of in the European games, especially in Italy. They had a few hundred fans go over, which it's brilliant exposure for the club. Especially that's probably the best memory I have of being a Lewes fan.
Yeah, because I've heard a little bit about that cup because FC United are currently in that competition as well. They've been playing a few games there this season.
They are, yeah. So it's odd because it's a competition that you need to be invited into. So the reason that so it was set up sort of during COVID, and it was sort of set up during COVID and around. Do you remember the Super League that obviously Florentino Perez of Real Madrid and all they were so pushing for it? It was designed to sort of give non-league clubs that exposure, but you need to be invited to it. So the idea is that your club has done something in non-league that is good for the sport and for, as I previously touched on, for Lewes, it was to do with the fact that they pay their men and women's team equally, and that's why they got invited into this competition. I believe we were invited into it this season, but we turned it down partially because we've had a new manager come in and he just wants to focus on the league. He doesn't want to focus on the European competition. And also, I didn't actually go to Italy, but the people that I know that went, they said it was actually quite poorly run, to the point where in the stadium they didn't actually have any running water. So that's not very good, especially in like 30-degree heat. That was not ideal. But it was, other than that, especially in the group stage, it was a great experience to go to all these different countries and watch your local club essentially play in a European competition.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I've never got to do that with Plymouth, so I mean, if you're doing it with Lewes, then I'm obviously supporting the wrong club. But I think then the final thing is that we've got to quickly touch on with non-league football. Obviously, we were talking about the steps and the pyramids. Where do you see Lewes in the next 5 to 10 years? If you give us a 5-year plan and then a 10-year plan, if you were the manager, where would you be aiming and where would you be achieving?
It's a very touchy question because the issue is with non-league is that you've got so many teams now sort of in and around our so Ramsgate are a very big example of this. They're teams that have those majority owners that come in and they pump so much money into the clubs, and they'll sort of set up what's known as like a 3-year. It's usually like a 3-year plan. They go, okay, in 3 years we want to be promoted. Like with most clubs, they'll bring in a manager and they'll go, in 3 years we want to be, we're in League One, we want to be in the Championship. The issue with it is when it fails stupendously to the point where the owners sort of pull out. They go, oh, well, I'm not making any money off that. I'm pulling out. And the club's left with nothing. Funnily enough, our old manager, Tony Russell, he went to Ramsgate because he was promised a lot of money. I think Ramsgate, bearing in mind, they're in step 8 of the, so they're sort of 8 steps down from the Prem. And they were spending sort of around about £1 million, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing. But in non-league, that is a ridiculous, especially for a step 8 club, that is ridiculous. And then they didn't go up, and they've sort of kind of pulled the plug on it a bit. But going back to Lewes, we were in a bit of a transitional period. We've got a new manager come in, Craig Nelson. He's a young manager, I believe. He's sort of in his mid to early 30s, so a bit like the Brighton manager, Fabian Hersler. He I can't remember where we got him from actually, but he won the league with the club he was at last season. Has come in now and he's brought in a very young squad. Where another thing I wanted to touch on, where you can sort of bring in players for the future. In, say, if you're a QPR or a Plymouth fan, for example, you bring in players and you mature them. You might send them out on loan and then you play them in the next few seasons. the issue with non-league, especially for Lewes, is the we have about 4 players who are actually on a contract. Everyone else is sort of they're signed on to play for Lewes, but the way it would work is a player that's not contracted, you would have a club would go and sort of speak to them and go, we want to sign you, we want to do this and that and other, and the club Lewes would have no idea it's happening until a deal is done, and then the club that signed him turned around and go, oh yeah, by the way, we've signed this player, this is your 7-day notice, and the club can't do anything about it. So it's very hard for me. Obviously, I'd love for us to be in the Vanarama South. That's the game. That's the highest Lewes have ever been as a club. The aim would obviously be to there, and then if we can keep hold of our players that we have now, we have quite a good young squad. If it can mature, if it can gel together, I don't see why we can't push for promotion. But it is just that whole thing of I could go to, we've got a game on Boxing Day. I could go to a game on Boxing Day. We have 4 new players, and I've got no idea who any of them are because that's just how it works at that level. But I think if we do keep all our players together, we've definitely got a shout of mixing it up there with the big teams like Billericay and Dover, for example.
Perfect. I think that's kind of the best answer we could have had. And thank you for talking us through a little bit about Lewes and kind of your history and the connection you have with them. Liam, anything else from you before we move on?
Yeah, I've just got to add, I think from what I've seen of Lewes, facility wise, you've got a really good setup, a really nice ground. And it's definitely something I think hopefully we'll see Lewes maybe competing in the next step next season, because you had a really good start to the season, but you started to dip a little bit.
Yeah, we had again we played. I can't remember who it was actually we played first game of the season, but they were one of the promotion favourites. Beat them 2-0. We then played Bognor away, beat them 1-0, and then we played #United, and we've got them again on the 28th actually, I believe. We beat them 2-1, and that's sort of another thing that we might touch on in another podcast, but I have my own opinions on #. A lot of Lewes fans, and a lot of fans in the league have their own opinions on #, and it's for another sort of podcast or another episode, I should say. But yeah, no, like you say, that the ground's actually won. If you go, I can't remember who they won the award off of, but if you actually look up, so the ground's called the Dripping Pan. If you look it up, it's actually won awards for best non-league stadium in the UK, or in England at least. So it is a very, very nice facility, and it's fit for, we wouldn't have to make too many changes to the actual stadium until we sort of got to Vanarama League 2 sort of situation where a lot of sort of, you need certain floodlights, you need certain stand restrictions. Obviously, a lot of Lewes is safe standing, which we'd probably need to change if we went into League 2. But right now, our stadium is, I'd say it's probably the best in the league. And that's not just me saying it as a Lewes fan. I think you can go online and you can see sort of different articles that say, this is a ground that, if you're planning on watching non-league and you're from the area, I'd definitely say go and watch Lewes FC.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on and talking about Lewes. We're going to hopefully get a few more guests coming on and talking about some non-league teams that they support, because non-league's so important in the English game. And yeah, it's just brilliant to get fans' opinions, different views of the game from non-league levels. So yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you for coming on. And Owen's obviously going to hang around and talk a little bit more about the games that we predicted last week and the games we got predicted for this week. So I think that moves us on nicely to the games that we predicted last week. Me and Cal again had a pretty shocking week with our predictions, I'd say. It's not been a good start for us, but I'm sure at some point it's going to come good.
£2 down.
So we'll start with really the first game, which is in the Premier League. Spurs Liverpool. Cal, take it away, really.
I mean, it's probably the biggest game of the weekend from any level of football, probably in the world, if I'm being honest. It was a massive game for both sides. And then seeing 9 goals and a 6-3 thriller, it was insane. Watching all of that unfold in front of me was was pretty insane. We both predicted. I said it'd be a draw. I think you said a Spurs win, so we were both pretty far off. But it was just one of those games where you can see the real quality that Liverpool do in fact have. Like they're not a team now which we have touched on in the first week that we think is going to slip up. I honestly think that they can now just continue and power through all the way to May time and win the league. Spurs being again another one we touched on recently. Ange Postecoglou and his methods. We saw yesterday he's just not willing to change that system at all. He wants the team to play exactly how they are. And it's one of those things which potentially Spurs fans would tell me differently. But I do think you stick by Ange, he's going to win some trophies at Spurs. What do you think, Owen?
I think I think, like you say, we touched on it. We just saw the quality of Liverpool. It's one of those ones where Salah. I went up as a Brighton fan. I went up to Anfield to watch us when we lost 2-1. And Salah then was obviously scored a ridiculous goal. And sometimes you just got to take a step back and go, do you know what? This guy is world class. I think there was a talk sort of going on, obviously, people building their Premier League best ever all-time 11s. I personally I think Salah's got to be in that conversation now. I don't see why you can't have him in that conversation. It's not just the numbers he's putting up, it's how consistent he's been. The team has changed sort of, especially in the last few seasons with the manager going and sort of the whole midfield changing, Mane going, Firmino going. He's still hitting, he's got double figures in both assists and goals, which for a winger, bearing in mind, as well, there's so much uncertainty about him actually at Liverpool. Obviously he's come out and said that the club haven't actually approached him over a new contract yet. It's to actually have that mindset of going, yeah, this is going on and, I'm not certain of it, but I'm still going to perform to the best of my ability. And if he wins the league with Liverpool, which I personally think they will, I think they will win the league this year. And there's no doubt in my mind he is definitely at least in with a shout of being the best, at least the best right winger the Prem team.
I agree. What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, look, currently for me, Mo Salah's the best player in the world on current form. Yeah, 100%. The man, what he's done at Liverpool over the last 5-6 years he's been there, has been just nothing short of incredible, really. Sometimes he can be so ineffective though in a game, but pop up with 2 goals, and sometimes that's all you need of a player. And his quality is just amazing. He creates so many opportunities for the likes of Nunez, Luis Diaz, who I think also has just been incredible this season. He's been nothing short of amazing, really, getting on the assists, a lot of goals, again scoring 2 goals yesterday. But I want to touch on Spurs as well. I was watching the game yesterday, and the stats that came up about Spurs in December look absolutely shocking. So goals conceded just in December is 12. They're 20th in the league for that. Shots faced, 85. They're 20th. Shots on target faced, 37. They're last for that. Expected goals against is 13.5. That's 20th in the league as well. I don't know how Ange's system is going to help them win games. Of course, attacking wise, I say, yeah, they're free flowing, but you got to build from the back. Like, they've got a couple of injuries here, there. They've got, obviously, Romero out injured, who, yeah, he's a brilliant defender, but the system doesn't suit this Spurs side. And if Ange isn't going to change, I honestly don't think he'll be in the job when by next season, for me.
I think he's still just on you. Like I say, I think he still should be. I think Spurs and Levy should give him time, because he will have, if he gives 2-3 more seasons and he builds his perfect side, I can't see why Spurs won't eventually, definitely not now, won't eventually be a top club that could potentially win the league. But yeah, so that was kind of our Spurs Liverpool prediction. Before we do move on, I just want to give a massive thanks to Salah himself, because fancy football there was he was my captain this week. So I know Liam's not a big fancy footballer, but Owen, are you? Do you play?
Yeah, I play a fair bit. I've played quite a few seasons now. Rather annoyingly, as you said that, may have taken Diaz out of my FPL and put Ahmad in. So, and that was sort of to do with the
That
fact
one
that
went well, didn't it?
Haaland needed to come out of my team. He was stinking up the gap.
Yeah.
Salah came in, did the job, but I think in our league, Liam, we've got a league of our uni lot. I think I'm about 6th. I think I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
doing
I'm down
well.
near the bottom. I ain't even touched it.
I'm bottom of my family one. I'm not doing well. This
Great,
season.
Owen. How many points do you want all in all? I want to find out now.
I need to get it
I'm
up.
curious.
But
I think,
let's
you
move
start
on, and then
talking
Owen, you can say it in a minute.
I'll just get it up. I'll have a
that
look.
works. Just show your camera. That's all I need to know. And as long as I've got more, then you can stay on the pod and come back whenever you're ready.
So I'm just going to introduce, obviously, QBR was there Saturday. We obviously picked 2 games in the Championship this week, which was Plymouth, Middlesbrough, and QPR versus Preston. So I'll introduce first. It was such a impressive display from QPR. It was a team that showed so much confidence, and in that first half, 4 minutes in, we should have been 1-0 up. Kenneth Powell hitting the bar. We really, for the first 20 minutes, were playing pressing off the park, and then obviously they had a controversial goal, which Osmajic was running through. Cook was about to clear it, was tracking back, and Cook pulled up. He's felt something in his foot, and it just couldn't carry on and fell to the floor. Lots
Sorry,
of
Liam.
fans.
Owen's got his fancy points. If I can see,
got
I
it,
can
yeah.
see him.
Hang on. I don't know how much you can.
How much are you at?
925.
Fine. I'm
on.
on 1050.
Yeah.
So I'm on 1050 for me at the moment. So
You've been winning this week. The top person in this one's got 970.
I think I'm top of most of my leagues at the moment. But yeah, when we go back onto Liam, you can take away with QPR. I know you.
Yeah, so
you love talking about them.
the Osmajic goal obviously was quite controversial. Some fans, a lot of QPR fans in the ground at the time, said that Osmajic, for fair play, should have pulled up and not taken the shot. For me, it's not a head injury. He had every right to go through and shoot. I can see why some fans questioned it. I know Sam Field on the pitch was trying to argue it, but for me, it's a massive blow for QPR losing Steve Cook. He's got his scan today, so hopefully something good comes of it and it's not too long. But yeah, that goal did kill us a little bit. When the game went a bit flat up until half time, we had a couple of chances, but nothing clear cut. Then the second half, we just absolutely outplayed Preston. Preston didn't come into this game really dominating at all. They had that one chance with Osmajic, and that's really all I can say that they had chance wise. Our young man Ryan Colley with another goal. That's 3 in 4 games. So he's looking really impressive. And then Ilias Chair, the boy, comes back on. Unbelievable crossing in the 89th minute, and our main man Jimmy Dunn from right back scores a header, and it was just great to see Loftus Road absolutely buzzing. There's 7 games unbeaten now. There's some real standout players in that game. Again, for me, Varane just absolutely controlled the middle of the park. Jonathan Varane, I think, for me, biased, I know, best centre mid in the champ. But look, you can shake your head all you want, but
Joe Bellingham is clear of
No.
Jonathan Varane.
But I sit there and like Paul Smith was just incredible. I haven't seen a lot of that this season, but in the last few weeks, he's really stepped up. But yeah, disappointing one probably for Preston. Preston fans probably would have wanted a little bit them to come at us a little bit more. But yeah, moves us on lovely up the table, up into 14th. And yeah, let's hopefully we can keep pushing.
Fine. Well,
You got anything to say at all?
Definitely not about QPR. I think you've kind of swept away the floor there. I think we should move on before we let you talk any more about that disaster class of a team. We're now going to move on to the Plymouth Middlesbrough game, which again, we're talking of disastrous teams. For me, it was an excellent game, and before minute 1, a draw would have been ideal. I would have taken 1-1, I would have taken 2, I would have taken 3-3. But instead, I saw every single result of that and thought we deserved to win. We went 1-0 up to a quite a nice goal. Well done from Gibber at the back post, but it was one of those where it set us off on quite a nice start. And then 1-0. And then it was 2-1, then 2-2, and then 3-2, and then 3-2. So it was one of those games which we just could not keep them away from a goal to save our lives. We had 2 avoidable goals, one being a bit of ping pong, and the other one is comical. Come off Hardy's foot, strolls in the bottom corner, and then that was kind of game written then at that point, which is unlucky because it does see us only take 1 point instead of 3. 3 points would have actually taken us out of the relegation zone, but 1 keeps us bottom. So.
I was going to say, actually, sorry, I was going to say, actually, I've made a load of notes to try and not look like a complete novice on this. I was just going to say, obviously, you've conceded 45 goals this season, which actually is the most out of any teams in the top 4 divisions, so Premier League to League 2. Do you think there's a reason for that? Is it Rooney's system? Obviously, there's a lot of sort of chat around him. Is he actually fit for the job? What makes you think, that you are statistically, the worst defensive team in the league?
I think that's one of 2 reasons. 2 being because we have the worst defence in the league. I think you could throw all 3 of us in the back 3 and we'd probably do a little bit better than what I see at points. No, but honestly, I think Rooney, and I don't know this for sure because obviously I've never experienced a training session of his, but he was such a good attacker. He was such a good striker. He could score goals. So in my head, I always think he must be training them really well going forward, but defensively they must be a bit ropey. And I think now with the input of Mike Phelan, that will only change. But I think before, when we were really relying on Rooney to be that sole head coach, I don't think necessarily we were getting the correct drills put into our defenders. We have also had injuries, don't get me wrong. We've lost Joe Edwards, our captain, for quite a while, and he's a pivotal part of our back line. But again, it's one of those things where it's if buts and maybes. If he had been there, would we have conceded as many goals? You don't know. But yeah, I think it is something we'll change with Mike Phelan. And I think we should keep hold of Rooney for as long as possible because he's only going to bring names and publicity to Plymouth, which ultimately ends in money. So it is what we need.
I just want to touch a little bit on the game, actually, because I think obviously the first goal coming off Ryan Hardy, it's nothing you could do about that. That's just so unlucky. Your second goal, really, it's a pretty poor save for me. The first save in the instance, he's just batted it straight back out into danger, and it's just rolled under his arm for the rebound, really. Which for me, I think, bit of poor keeping. And then I want to touch on that third goal. You're 3-2 up, and I can't remember which player it was marking Emmanuel Latte-Laf, but literally just let him walk off him, peel off him. It was no problems at all, and he's free at the back post to just. It's a really good finish, but for me there's just such a lack of discipline from the Plymouth side, and that's not going to keep you up. I think you've got to start being more disciplined at the back. It's a really disappointing result for Borough, but I don't think this is actually the worst result for Plymouth. Like you said, you would have taken that result before. Obviously, how the game's panned out, probably now you're disappointed that you didn't win, but it's definitely something that Plymouth can build on. That Borough in the top 6, that's a good result, but the 3 points would have been better. But this is something now that Plymouth have to build on, but have to focus defensively because some of them goals were so avoidable. And you sit there and you just think, for me, I was sat there watching the highlights of that game and I thought, do you know what? I'm sorry to say this, Cal, but I see you lot just getting lower and lower. If you're just going to defend like that, you won't stay up. It's that simple.
Yeah, no, I know that for sure. I think you say the goalie for the second, but then you have to look at the defensive work before. And again, it just touches on our defence being so poor at times. Like they just let him stroll in. He took it past the man, played a 1-2 there, and then had a free shot a goal. And it was like, where's the defensive work coming from? Like who's commanding that defence to get them to actually put a foot in, to get them to do this, to get them to do that? And I think that's where we are really lacking another centre back to partner with Gibbo, but then also Joe Edwards in there to steady that ship up. Mumba is so good, but he's more of a wing back than he is a full back, so he's getting lost a little bit in our system. But yeah, again, I think it's one of those things I could probably talk all day about Plymouth and our system, and if I think we're going to stay up or not. So we will now move on from Plymouth and to Wycombe Bolton, which was a game it was one of your picks, wasn't it, from last week, Lee? You said it was going to have goals. You said it was going to have entertainment, and we actually saw none of that. So I'd like you to talk through this one.
First of all, obviously I said Wycombe have been such a good side, and to be fair, probably come out the happier. They're still top of the league. Bolton needed a result after that poor game at Wigan, and it was a lot better display from that Bolton side. But Bolton have got games in hand, and they need to start picking up some wins to be able to climb into higher up in that playoff spot, because I think that's where they can be. I still have no doubts. Like I said in the last pod, they're definitely going to be in that playoffs. But I think we can come out of this game happier though. Still a point, still unbeaten in 7, I want to say. So it's not a bad result for them. Of course, they would have liked the 3 points, but yeah, a pretty poor draw really on a Friday night.
Yes, yeah, it was one of those, wasn't it? It was a very dull game. It was actually the featured match on Sky, if I'm not wrong. So it was a game that everybody should have been anticipating up to watch and enjoy, but it did kind of underperform. And I think we should maybe start rattling on through these, because the last game as well was very good. So I don't think we should talk much about Wycombe and Bolton, because, like I say, it was a pretty dull game. But we're talking about Notts County now versus Bradford. That was the game which you predicted Notts to win and move up into the playoffs, and they did. David McGoldrick, another player you spoke about, you said he was very good. Jatta, again, another player that unfortunately you said was very good. So this prediction you saw in quite a good light, didn't you?
Yeah, look, they've both been on the up there in the goals tally this season, McGoldrick and Jatta. And look, this game, like I said to you, it could have gone either way. It could have been a goal fest for either side, or it could have been a bore draw. They both are good sides, but this is really disappointing for Bradford, especially with their next game to bounce back is away at Port Vale, who sits second. So I look at that and I go, it's a really. They would have rathered a draw, obviously rathered a draw, but now it's, if they lose to Port Vale, it's season probably 6 or 7 points off the playoffs. So they do have a game in hand, but yeah, it's not great for them. But on Notts County, they've now jumped up to 7th. Jatta McGoldrick on the score sheet, Jatta with 2. It was just a really dominant display from Notts County, and I think Notts County fans would be so impressed with that performance, and hopefully, because they were at a little bit of form, hopefully this is a stepping stone for them to pick up a few results now on the bounce and see them climb a bit further, because it'd be brilliant to see Notts County
We've lost
reach the
Owen.
playoffs.
Carry on. We'll continue without Owen for the time being. He's just
Oh,
back.
here he is. He's back.
I'm back. I'm alive. Don't worry.
He was so bored of listening to you speak, Liam, that he left.
No, I was just going to say, actually, I was going to add on to. Sorry, I was literally about to say it, and then it cut because my internet is about as stable as Plymouth's defence. I was just saying,
no need.
yeah, I won't be invited back now. Obviously, in terms of the goal scorers, you mentioned McGoldrick for Notts County. In terms of Bradford's, when I was looking up, obviously, all the stats and stuff, Andy Cook's obviously their top goal scorer with 10. Their next top goal scorer is on 2. So it's so. I think they rely on him so much, and obviously you need, especially in any team, you need a goal scorer that's gonna, get you goals when other players aren't. And McGoldrick, I mean, he's been about for donkey's years. I remember when Brighton were in the Championship and we were playing him. So he's someone that I think. Do you boys think? Obviously, you guys probably know a lot more than me about this. Do you feel like he's the type of player that David McGoldrick can just grab Notts County by the scruff of the neck and almost drag them into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
one thing for sure is his experience. Like he's been in and around the Championship, League One, League Two, and he's always most of the clubs he's been at, he's reaching near 10 goals. And I think this season, I know he's getting older, but I look at him now, he's on 7 goals, I want to say. Um, but yeah, I think he could push this Notts County side. Obviously, I don't think Notts County's defence is that brilliant, but I'm sure that he might be able to drag him into a playoff spot. Do I think Notts County will get promoted in that league? I'm not sure, but it'd be nice to see them make the playoffs for me. And I think McGoldrick could definitely be that man to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree fully. I think McGoldrick's one of those players that he's, like you say, the experience is so key, especially in League Two. Plymouth have been there, done that. And it was all about experience. You have to have players that have played in certain standards, certain games, certain experiences can ultimately make seasons. And I think, yeah, David McGoldrick's having one of those this year. So that's kind of our last week games touched on, and now we're going to move on to some of the Boxing Day games. Right, we're going to
Bring
kind
it
of rattle
on.
through these because these are our predictions for next week, so we don't actually know what's going to happen. But we're going to start with Newcastle versus Villa. Both teams impressive on the weekend. What are your thoughts for this game?
Well, first of all, yeah, Newcastle with a really impressive win at the weekend. Isaac, quality striker on coming off the back of is it 3 goals? I want to say 3 goals, hat trick.
Yeah. Jacob
Yeah.
Murphy got the other.
Yeah, hat trick at the weekend, and Newcastle are in a position now where they could be looking up at, if they do win this game, they'll be pushing for fifth. I just want to ask you lot a question about where do you think Newcastle will finish up this season, because I think they had quite a good start, and then tailed off a little bit with a couple of disappointing results. But this win will help them kick on a little bit, and I just want to touch on where you think they might finish this season.
I think it's they obviously, like you say, Isak is a quality striker. I think there was a sort of a discussion a few seasons ago: is he the best striker in the league behind Haaland? Obviously, now you've got sort of Ollie Watkins coming into that. Even like Chris Wood coming into it. He's still banging in goals. In terms of if they can get sort of top four, can they get sort of that Champions League spot again? I think it does depend on. I look at that squad and I go, has it got enough depth? Obviously they've got the luxury of not having to play European football this season, which I think is a massive boost. It was, for example, I keep going back to Brighton, but obviously when we got European football, when we came sixth, we had the luxury of not having to play in Europe, and I think that does help in terms of injuries. You then saw in the season afterwards, we picked up so many more injuries, and we completely sort of tailed off. I think if they can keep, obviously, Botman's coming back now, I think that's going to be massive for them. He's a quality defender, obviously still young, still growing. Played in the under-21s, I think, the other week. I'm not sure how long he played, but he'll be a big boost for them. If they can keep sort of the likes of, obviously they missed Tonali for such a long part of last season, obviously not through injury, through obviously other means.
Addiction.
But yeah, but I think if that squad can stay fit and can, yeah, Eddie Howe is a great manager. I think there was a lot of talk about, why wasn't he interviewed for the England job? I personally think it's still too early for him. I think he's in such a good job at Newcastle. For me personally, I don't know if you boys agree. I think the England job's a poison chalice. I think there's so much expectation around it. I think it would have not ruined his reputation, but I think it would definitely, if the stuff didn't go his way, I think he would.
I'd 100% agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think it's, like you say, so stable at Newcastle. Why would you change it? You've got the potential to build a really, really nice squad there and pick up maybe even a couple of trophies. So I think it was a bit too early to jump into that England post. But yeah, moving on to Villa, they obviously had a massive win, didn't they? John Duran, Morgan Rogers just playing City's defence off the park, really. I saw a few flicks and tricks from them, which you'd never have seen ever against City in seasons gone. But this year they're just kicking one of them down, aren't they? Villa have started so strongly, so I think it's a great result for them. And I think moving into Boxing Day, they're probably looking to take 3 points as well. What are your thoughts, Liam, on Villa?
Yeah, look, really impressive. I managed to catch some of it before the QBR game in the pub, and they looked yeah, they looked really good, really impressive. Morgan Rogers is someone that's really impressed me, considering a couple of seasons back I didn't really think much of him at Middlesbrough. But yeah, look, Villa again. I feel like they could really. Obviously, they've got European football this year, but I really do think they'll be pushing for that top four again this year. I think this is a really tough game for Villa. Obviously, in their last four away games, they've all ended in defeat. But this previous game against City can really give Villa a boost. I think it would be a really close game, but I do see possibly Villa edging this one. But yeah, I think Unai Emery's really created something really good at Villa at the moment, and I think Emery's going to have a really good reign at Villa for a few more seasons yet, and I think he's going to win a few more trophies with Villa.
Yeah, but I agree. I think we'll come on to our predictions shortly, but we're now going to move on to the Championship game of the week, which is a massive game, isn't it? At the top of the table, Sheffield United versus Burnley. What are your thoughts, Owen? You got any stats for us?
No, obviously Burnley, conceding 9 goals in total, unbeaten at home. Very, very impressive. Scott Parker, we know what he can do at Championship level. He's already got promoted with Bournemouth, got promoted with Fulham. I have no doubt he's going to get promoted with Burnley as well. That is I think a lot of it comes down, and obviously you boys are fans of teams in the Championship. I think now the gaps become so big between, in my opinion, the gaps become so big between the Championship and the Prem when teams come down. I mean, it sounds a bit contradictory because obviously Luton have had such a poor season, but Burnley have come back down, and they look almost too good for the league, and they then they could go back up, and they could look not good enough at all in the Premier League, and it's a very fine balance. Obviously, there's that whole joke of we need to put another league in between the Premier League and the Championship, but for me personally, I know obviously we'll get onto the predictions soon, but Sheffield United, don't get me wrong, they themselves had a good season. They're only 11 goals conceded. Chris Wilder's done a good job there, but for me personally, I don't see a world in which Burnley don't go up.
Yeah, I agree. Liam, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, look, first of all, I think Chris Wilder deserves so much credit. I think from a lot of people watching in at the start of the season would have said that Chris Wilder isn't the manager for Sheffield United. He's had a bit of a hard time since he left Sheffield United in the first instance. He had a really bad spell at Borough. And yeah, a lot of credit for him because he's galvanised a team that really struggled, obviously, in the Premier League last year, as we all know. And yeah, look, they've made Bramall Lane a tough place to go. Haven't lost the game there all season. They've only dropped points there once, against the R's. But look, they've got some quality in that team. Gustavo Hamer as well, someone that I think so highly of. 5 goals, 5 assists this season. And I just think he's a fantastic player at this level. He struggled a little bit in the Premier League, but at this level, he showed it when he was at Coventry, and he's showing it now at Sheffield United. And I think he's going to be really important in this game. But then I go to Burnley. Again, I say this all the time, and I think a lot of Championship fans say this as well. Scott Parker knows how to get the job done against teams in and around Burnley. I look a 2-1 win against Watford. Watford are a really good side this year. No one really expected them to be this high, I don't think. But Cleverley's doing a really good job there, and Scott Parker got the job done there. Burnley, like Owen just touched on, 8 clean sheets this season. Defensively, so good. It's a huge game for Burnley to close the gap with Sheffield United. Like I said to you in the pod last week, there is no doubt in my mind that Burnley will finish in that top 2. I really think Burnley have what it takes. They're a lot more consistent than Leeds, and I do think Leeds won't finish in that top 2 in the end. I think it would be these two teams battling it out for the title. So yeah, that's how I see this. I see this as a really tough game, but I think this could be a draw. But for me, I just
Stop doing your predictions before the predictions.
Sorry.
That's the
Sorry.
second
Okay,
game
I'll
now.
get onto that bit in a bit. Okay.
We've had a Villa win and we've had a draw. So now we're moving on to...
No, because I'm not picking a draw.
You're not
But
fine.
you're right.
Well, before we do so, we're gonna touch on quickly League One and the League Two results we've picked. We've gone for Hollywood versus Blackpool. Sorry, Wrexham versus Blackpool. Again, Owen, we're gonna start with you. Then Liam, move over to you. Do the same for then League Two, and then we're on to a little bit of a special ending to today's pod. So yeah, over to you. Wrexham versus Blackpool.
It's an odd one. Obviously, Wrexham. You see, they have the X factor, and they're a club that have risen so much. I haven't got too much. I'm literally going off Liam's notes. So thank you, Liam, for providing me with all of them. Obviously, they're 8 games unbeaten, 1-1 against Bristol Rovers at the weekend. Do you boys think they can make the automatics? Do you think they have what it takes? Obviously, you've got the January transfer window coming up. Do you think, with obviously such the massive pool that they have, do you think we should expect them to bring anyone else in to sort of really push for those playoffs?
I think they'll add. They'll definitely add to push into the playoffs. It's really tough because League One's so.
Oh, we've lost Owen.
I'll carry on.
I think we're having some Wi-Fi troubles, aren't we, with Owen here today?
There he is. Like Owen was saying, so I think Wrexham have what it takes to be up there. It's so hard to tell with this league at the moment. There's a lot of teams with games in hand, like Birmingham, as we record this on Monday. Birmingham are playing Crawley tonight. So they've only played 18 games on 42 points. Wrexham in really good form. They're obviously going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt. I think Wickham look really strong this year. But I do think they've got every right to get into that top 2. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Just touching on a bit of Wrexham. Obviously, you say about a 1-1 draw. For me, it was always going to be a tough game. Obviously, the sacking of Matt Taylor, it was Lee Catamol's first game as interim manager. So yeah, it was always going to be a tough game for them. They've got some brilliant players in there. Elliot Lee, Jack Marriott, who I think if they can keep getting him firing, I think he's got 5 or 6 goals this season. And James McLean, obviously, we know that he's still got a bit of quality. And then if I just touch a little bit on Blackpool, a 0-0 draw at home to Stevenage at the weekend. This is obviously a really tough game for Blackpool. But their away form has been better than their home form. They've won their last 3 away from home. They've got Carl Joseph, 7 goals, 3 assists this season, so they've got a goal scorer in there. Currently 4 points of the players. For me, I think Blackpool would take a draw in this one. But I can see them really. Oh, do I want to see Blackpool in the playoffs? Yeah, I think they're a brilliant club, and I'd love to. They've got a great atmosphere. They've got a really good fan base, and I think it would be great to see them in the playoffs this season.
Yeah, they're one of those, aren't they? Fallen giant, like obviously my time growing up, and both of yours as well. They were in the Prem. I used to have the match tax of Blackpool players, so it's a shame actually to see them so low. And then quickly rattling on through to League Two, we have picked out Walsall versus Doncaster in a game which, Liam, you're probably a bit more excited about than Owen and myself. You've got quite a connection to the League Two football, don't you? So you can start us off with this game.
Yeah, look, Walsall. We've picked Walsall versus Doncaster, top of the league versus third in the league. I think this is much like the Burnley Sheffield United game. This is a really tough game for both sides. Walsall flying high at the top of the table at the moment, 6 points clear with a game in hand, which is really impressive. I was just having a little look through yesterday, and like Walsall, over the last 3 seasons, they've been consistently finishing. They finished last season, I think, in 11th, but the season before, the 2 seasons before that, they're finishing 16th and 18th. They've really not been a club that have been batting up there. So it's great to see they've got QBR fan. I like to call him as a legend, but Albert Adoma there this season, in and amongst the goals at the weekend. And they've just been really impressive. Only lost one game at home this season. So this is a really tough game for Doncaster. Obviously, we covered Doncaster a couple of weeks ago. I want to touch on the moment of the weekend in the Doncaster Tranmere game shortly, but this is a massive chance for Doncaster to get into the top two. Been good away from home this season, and they got Luke Molyneux on 7 goals this season. Watching the game on Saturday, Luke Molyneux missed a couple of really good chances, but Doncaster looked really dominant against Tranmere. And I just want to touch on one of Tranmere's goals. A lot of you might have seen it, but I believe I want to say Billy Sharp, or it might even be Luke Molyneux, running to chase the ball with the Tranmere defender. The Doncaster player, whoever it was, Luke Molyneux or Billy Sharp, has fallen and has pulled, I think it was Turnbull, shorts down, and he's gone to pull his shorts back up, but someone's nipped in there and Doncaster scored. I just think that just sums up League Two, doesn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if anyone's got anything else to say on this game, but I think this is really, again, a tough game to call.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be an easy one for either team. Obviously, Doncaster sit quite comfortably in, not Doncaster, Walsall, sorry, sit quite comfortably in first place. And then I remember back at just a quick touch on from the shorts pulling, we saw Jan Vertonghen do at Tiverton Spurs when he fell over that one time, was getting slide tackled and got his shorts cacked. But yeah, so that kind of rounds up this week's. We're now going to move on to our predictions for next week's game, which are the games we've obviously just spoken about. We're going to start with our guest, Owen. You want to rattle through your predictions for all 4 games that we've picked. If you have a score prediction to go with it, that's amazing. If not,
of course.
Wins, draws, or losses.
I think. Do you know what? Newcastle Villa's tough. I think that's a very tough game to call. Newcastle have had in recent years. I think I'm right in saying it is at St James's Park, isn't it? I believe I'm right in saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, in previous seasons, I think they beat them sort of 5-1. I think that was Tonali's first game. For me, these are 2 sides in form. I think personally, I think Newcastle will win. Like you say, although Villa have had a good result, obviously a very good result against Man City, and they have looked so good. Away from home, they've not been brilliant. I'm going to go, I think Newcastle will win it. And honestly, I can see something like, I can see 3-1. I don't know why, but I can see 3-1. I think if Isak can keep up that form, if they do have the likes of, Botman back and he's fit, if Tonali can keep up his form, I think I'm going 3-1. 3-1 Newcastle.
3-1 Newcastle. On to the Championship.
Yeah, again, this is such tough games to call. These are probably 2 of the best defensive teams in the Championship. Burnley, like I said earlier, I can't see a world in which they don't go up. But then also, you also look at Sheffield United, and some people say, you can't see a world where they don't go up. So, is it going to be a stalemate or is it going to be a goal fest? I think. I think. So tough to call. I think Burnley will edge it. I think it's going to be very, very cagey. Both teams aren't going to want to lose. I'm going to go Burnley 1-0. I think.
League One.
I'm just getting up now. I've completely forgotten.
Wrexham Blackpool.
Wrexham. Yeah, I think Wrexham. They, like you say, they have the X factor. I think. Again, like you say, I think they'll add, and I think they will make the playoffs. I'm going to go 2-0 Wrexham.
Right, and then finally League Two, we've got Walsall versus Doncaster.
League Two, again, like you say, Walsall, flying high, like you say earlier. Liam touched on it. Yes, they've gone from consistently finishing mid-table. Like you say, I think the highest they finished was 11th, and now they're flying high. Again, like you say as well, big chance for Doncaster. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1. Is it going to draw? Fine. Liam, you rattle on through yours then, and then we'll touch on mine before moving on to the final bit of today's pod.
Yeah, so I think in general, we picked all of these games because they're really tough games to call this Boxing Day, and there's not many like real big games in all the leagues, but there's some really close games to pick from. So first of all, obviously the Newcastle Villa game. Like Owen was saying, it's really tough. Newcastle with a great win last time out, but so did Villa. But like Owen said, the last 4 away games have all ended in defeat for Villa. And I just think Newcastle at home, I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Newcastle.
Yep. On to the Championship.
And now look at this Championship game and I go, wow, like, it's going to be a great game. Sheffield United, obviously unbeaten at home, but I can't get away from this fact that Scott Parker can perform in the big games. I'm gonna go with a 2-0 win to Burnley.
2-0 Burnley.
Yeah, I know
Blackpool.
It's gonna be tough. I think I've got that wrong, but oh well. Wrexham Blackpool. Wrexham unbeaten in 6 games. This is really tough for Blackpool, and I think they'll definitely take a draw in this one, but I can't see that happening. I can see a 2-0 win Wrexham.
And then Walsall versus Doncaster.
Walsall, Doncaster.
I can just
look at Walsall, obviously.
That's all I can hear from
you. Do you know what? All the games are so tough to call. But Walsall obviously fly high at the table. Only lost 1 game at home this season, but then Doncaster coming off the back of a good win. I'm going to go 2-1 2-1 Walsall.
2-1 Walsall. Fine. All right, so I'm going to give you mine, and then we have got a little. I've got a little treat for you boys for the very end of today's pod.
Wonderful.
So I've got.
Fantastic.
I'm going to go 2-1 Villa. I've had enough time to. That's why I let you two go first. I've now got enough time to think them over myself. So I'm going to go 2-1 Villa. I'm then going to go 3-1 Sheffield United. I'm then going to go 2-0 Wrexham, same as you, Lee. And then I'm going to go 2-0 Walsall. I'm going 2-0. There's going to be at least 2 goals in every game. Those are my predictions. So so that has wrapped up the podcast. We are now going to move on to, if there is anyone new joining us just for this segment of the pod or for the future video, which may be coming out as well. I'm going to treat the boys today. We're going to do our first ever quiz on the channel. So we're going to utilize this time to quiz them both. I've got out 10 questions, some surrounding Christmas. There's a couple of Christmas related questions, others football knowledge questions, and there's a bonus question at the end if we are level on points. So I'm going to ask you both. We're going to start with Owen. Can you pick out a sound that's going to... So when I ask a question, whoever makes that sound first is going to be the one that gets to answer first. I will be giving the other person a go if the person that answers first gets it wrong. So, Owen, your noise, please.
Sticking with the theme of Lewis, I'm going to go Rooks. That's our nickname. We're going to go Rooks.
Rooks. Liam, don't say ours.
Let's just keep it simple then. My buzzer noise, yours.
All right, perfect. So, we're going to start now. There's 10 questions. We're all trying to be keeping tally as well. However, keep tally of the points you also get. Okay, we'll get the app out now to make sure that none of you are cheating.
I'm also rubbish at quizzes, so this is going to be good.
Don't start this. Don't say, "Oh, I'm rubbish at quizzes," and then beat me like 10-0.
Okay, so question 1. This is a closest answer, so whoever's closest wins if obviously the answer that comes out of Liam's mouth first or Owen's mouth first is not correct. On Boxing Day, 1963, how many goals were scored across 10 Premier League games? This is a very famous Boxing Day as well. So you will know it because it's the... Owen?
I want to say I know it's high. I know it's a lot higher than people think. I'm going to go like 98.
Incorrect. However, you may still be closest. So, Liam, over to you. Do you want to give an answer, or do you let Owen have the point?
I'm not going to let him have the point. I'm going to go 80.
You are Close. You're not close. It was 66, but the point is going to go to Liam there because we.
You're
we are
well
gonna
off,
try and do
Owen.
points.
What?
No, because like you say, it's so famous because it's like the most. Like I swear, there's like 8-1 victories and stuff like.
There's one game with 10 goals and another game with 11.
Yeah, that's what.
Mad.
It's very, very famous that Boxing Day. And if you haven't seen it, anybody, please do check it out because it's like I say, it's very famous and it's got a lot of goals for you to enjoy. Okay, question 2. I've dropped my answer sheet, but question 2: who currently has the most Premier League assists? Bonus point if you know how many.
What, of all time this season?
No, this season. Sorry, this season.
Brooks.
Owen.
I think. I think it's Salah, and I think he's got 11.
Incorrect. Liam. You only get the bonus point if you get the correct answer as well. Just an FYI.
Saka.
With, unless you only want one.
Saka with 13.
Oh, you were close, but I'm going to give you the single point. It is Saka with 11.
See, my only thinking is that with all the corners.
Yeah, it's Saka with 11.
Yeah,
So you would have had it if you had said.
So can we just clarify? I'm 2-0 up, yeah.
You are 2-0 up currently.
You are.
Lovely, yeah. No.
Question number 3. There is currently.
Hold on, we've lost.
That's right. I
Owen.
was still.
That's all right.
Theme of the podcast. We lost.
Yeah.
I've had enough. I'm fed up already.
We're going to title this episode Owen's Internet.
Yeah.
So, question number 3. There is currently 4 teams sat on the most amount of defeats in a Premier League season. First person to name one of those teams.
You odds.
Liam?
Southampton.
Wrong.
Brooks.
Hmm?
Wrong.
Wait, is this? Wait, sorry. Is this all time? Sorry.
Owen. Yes. There's
Oh,
4
I
teams
thought you
with
said
the
this
lowest
season.
amount.
Derby.
Derby, correct. 1 point for Owen. The other 3 teams were Ipswich, Sunderland, and Sheffield United.
I thought you said.
No. Don't give me that. Ipswich, unfortunately, did that when they had a 42 league season, though. So that was when there was more teams in the Prem. So they didn't get a bit unlucky there. Question number 4. This is another one. If you get the correct answer, and then whoever is closest may get a bonus point to go alongside it. What is the highest Premier League attendance ever? Closest number is the winner.
Mate, what are these questions? You odds.
Brooks.
Liam. Oh, I'm going to have to give it to Liam first.
No. Liam did get it. Liam got it.
79,000.
Very close, but you're not within my catchment of numbers. So I'm going to give
Don't
Owen
say
a shot
very
as well.
close, because now he can have a guess.
If
That's how it works.
yeah, but if you're closer, you still get the point. Stop moaning.
Can I say as well which team I think it is?
If you say one of the teams involved in the fixture, I'll give you 2 points. If you're closer than Liam, that is.
Right, I'm pretty sure. Is it the biggest stadium? I'm going to go Tottenham because I'm pretty sure their stadium is the biggest in the league, and I'm going to say 77,000.
Well, Liam, what was your answer?
79,000.
So I'm going to give you both a point because, Owen, you were correct. It is a North London derby in 2018. However, it was at
Wembley, wasn't it?
Stadium. It was at Wembley.
Yeah.
Manchester United still do hold the record for having the biggest stadium. However, I'm going to give you both a point for that one because you got the fixture and Liam, you got closest. So now,
So I'm
moving
still
on.
3-2 up, yeah?
3-2, yep. Question number 5. How many goals were scored in the highest goals game in Premier League history? So how many goals was there in the highest gold game in Premier League history?
Oh. Brooks. 12.
Yeah. Incorrect. Liam.
You
over
are
to you.
11.
Correct. I'm going to give him the point.
It links to
said
the
it
first
early.
one.
It
No,
links
no.
to the first one.
Yeah, but he said like combined. So I thought,
Oh,
maybe
just
there's like
worded
I
it
don't know,
funny.
like a
Sorry, mate.
7-5 somewhere.
It is 7-4. That was the game. So we have another question. The question number 6. Who has the record for the lowest amount of points in a Premier League season?
Works.
Owen?
Derby.
Derby, perfect.
Oh.
Would you like a bonus point if you guess the year?
Yes, I'll get it.
No,
You
not
was.
you. Owen. Owen first. Owen, get the
Wait, how many points it was?
No, if you get the year that they did it in. The points number I'll tell you in a minute.
God.
All the points.
2007 and 8.
But he's now guess the points. I'll give you an extra bonus point.
11.
He's wiped the floor with it. That is insane. We're going to give him 2 for that. There we are. So he has now jumped into the league with a 5-4 victory currently. So now
You're making up points as it goes. This is ridiculous.
It's my game show. None of that, please. Otherwise you lose a point. Question number 7. Who currently has the most amount of Premier League goals for one club?
Rooks.
Owen.
Wayne Rooney at Man United.
That is incorrect. Liam, over to you.
You was. This is bold, but Harry Kane.
Oh, he smashed it. Yes, he's got the point. It is Harry
Ooh.
Kane at Spurs.
5-0, back
5-0
in it.
With 3 questions to go. There is a bonus question at the end. If we are on level playing field, we'll ask that bonus question. If not, we will just ask it for fun and you can have a guess. So question number 8. Which Premier League manager has led the most amount of seasons in history?
You was.
Liam.
Sir Alex Ferguson.
Incorrect. Owen.
Arsene Wenger.
Perfect. He's got the
I was going to pick
smack on the
Wenger.
head with 22 there. Okay, this next question is the hardest question of all. And if none of you get it, I'm not going to blame you. However, I threw this one as a complete curveball. So, in 2016, the 25,000th goal was scored by a Manchester United striker. Who was it?
Oh my God, no!
In 2016?
In 2016, the 25,000th goal was scored by a Man United striker. Who was it?
I actually know. Oh my God!
I'm going to put a bold name.
Who's
You
gonna
was.
Liam?
But because this is so bold, I don't know. But Federico Makeda.
Incorrect. Owen, your guest.
No, am I right in saying he went to Preston?
No, definitely not.
But let us keep guessing for a bit here because I think
You're
I
going
can
to have
do
an
this.
extra guess each. I'm going to give you an extra guess each.
Not who I think then, because I was so certain it was this. I can't remember his name.
So Owen's got 2 guesses. Liam's got 1 guess left.
Man United striker.
Please guess now
Scored by
whenever you
Man
want. You've
United
both got them
player.
wrong. By a Man United striker. It was against Swansea, if that helps.
Rooks.
Owen.
Was Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
It was Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I'm not sure where you got the Preston link from, but it definitely wasn't Ibra that did end up at Preston.
There was a guy who scored on his debut for Man United, and he did like a phone celebration.
That's Makeda, isn't it?
No, Will
That's
Keane.
Makeda.
Will Keane,
Yeah.
who I'm talking of. He's
was.
now battling it out in League One. No, League Two, in fact. Okay, final question. It is now 6-5 to Owen. Final question. There is four answers to this question. Whoever names one first is the winner. Please remember your sound. Name a player with the most.
Can we not all try guess all of them? A point
If
for
you
each player.
Point for if you guess. Yeah, if you guess more than one, I'll give you a point for each player.
All right, sweet.
Name a player with more than one Player of the Season award in the Premier League.
Yours.
Liam.
Mo Salah.
Wrong. Owen.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Correct. Point for Owen. I'm going to let you go until you try and guess to guess all 4. Liam.
It's Kevin De Bruyne.
Yep. Kevin De Bruyne has got one. Yeah, he's one of the answers. They're all currently on 2. There is nobody on more than 2, by the way. Okay, so there's 2 more to go. If
Are
Owen
they
gets...
all active or are they all like?
No, there's some legends in there.
You was
Liam,
Sergio Aguero.
wrong.
Ah.
Liam,
Brooks,
you need one.
Henry.
Henri is the answer to another one. If you want to get the final one, but other than that, Owen is our winner of today's Football Unfiltered quiz. Massive round of applause, Owen. You are the first guest and the
Thank
first quiz winner. However, would
Who
you like
was the last one?
Wait, can I guess it? Can I guess it?
Sorry, I've already given it to you. It's Vidic.
Wait, what was it?
Fine.
Sorry.
Vidic has taken home two Player of the Season awards. Yeah. And then would you like to hear the bonus question, which
Yeah,
was
go
there
on.
Yeah, go
for
on.
eventual? However, this will not count towards the points. Owen is still our winner. Unfortunately, we're not as big time yet to give you a present or an award, but you can take home the bragging right of beating your close friend Liam. The final bonus question is: name a club that was sat in the bottom 3 last Christmas.
You was
Liam,
Sheffield United.
perfect. Can you name the final 2?
I'm trying to think. Burnley.
Correct. Can you name the final 1? You're on a perfect. Luton was correct. So you got all 3 answers. It was a trick question. It was all 3 that went down in the end. But other than that, chaps, that's concluded. We've done our predictions. We've done our new style quiz. We've also talked through our games from last week, and then moving on to Boxing Day's games. But other than that, we've got nothing else to talk through. I wish you both a Merry Christmas. Have a great New Year, and we will see you all in 2025 now. So
See you all later.
Do
Merry
you have
Christmas.
anything to add?
I just want to quickly add actually that over the next few weeks now, we're going to start adding a couple more segments to our podcast. Try to get a lot more guests on. But yeah, each week we're probably going to add different segments just to try to keep the pod engaged. And just please, if you can, share as much as you can about this podcast because we really want to make this grow. Because we're thoroughly enjoying what we're doing and we love talking about football. But yeah, thank you, Owen, for coming on, and I'll wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, massive thank you, Owen. And if that concludes another week, doesn't it, boys? So we will see you all on the next one.